think it's time to go.
From the hills and hollers of southern Indiana to the Lone Star State of Texas, we are the hunters of the paranormal. Truth seekers, mount up.
Howdy, Truth Seekers. Good evening, everybody. We have another awesome guest here tonight. You'll recognize this lady. This is Taryn from Paranormal Brew. This lady is a ghost hunter extraordinaire, and she has a very awesome show. We're going to try to talk to her and find out a little bit about ghost hunting, and what got her started with this type of, I guess you could, is it a hobby? Is it a profession for you, Taryn? Or just
it's a passion.
A passion. Awesome.
I hate when people call it a hobby. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I prefer
I like that too.
I like passion too. I think that's a lot better because that's what it is with me too. It's not just a hobby.
Yeah, I mean, a hobby I think would fall in the category with enthusiasts, which I have all the respect for enthusiasts. I love paranormal enthusiasts and people that, love what we do. You know what I mean? And watch us and listen and, and this and that. But it really feels like a third job that you don't get paid for. Well, I don't get paid for. But it's only of my 3 jobs that I love. And I wish I could do it all the time.
Hobbies come and go, but passion stays with the soul.
Sure. That's so true.
Amen.
Very true.
What got you into this, Taryn? I'm sure you've had some experiences.
Yeah. So what got me into it was honestly the first experience I ever had in Gettysburg. And that was the first time I ever went to Gettysburg and where I had my experience. And I didn't know any better. So after I joined a group and had 3 months of extensive training, then you look back and you go, oh, that must have been something, that I can't. That must be paranormal. You know what I mean? So I did have experience as a little kid, not many, but knowing what I know now, looking back, I definitely had experiences when I was a kid, but my first experience that got me into this was in Gettysburg, and that was in 2007.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you kind of share that with us? What you experienced or?
Yeah. So, my mom took me to Gettysburg, and the people that know me know there's another one of my passions, Gettysburg. I have the coordinates tattooed on my forearm. Want to move there one day.
Sweet.
But like 2 things. I grudgingly went with her the first time. I never heard about Gettysburg. I was like, what is Gettysburg? What's in Gettysburg? It sounds like, boring, whatever. But she drugged me with her, and I went. I fell in love with Gettysburg, and we were, we tried out one of the touristy ghost tours. The little things you can sign up for, and they walk you around town, and tell you where this and that happened. And I thought it was okay, but I wanted something a little bit more exciting. So then the next thing we had signed up to do this. Like they called it a ghost hunt, a real one. And like the people that were running it had all this equipment. And, it was from 12 o'clock to 2 a.m, and they took you around everywhere. So we went somewhere. It's behind Steinwire Ave in Gettysburg. It's called a creek bed. And never really looked into the history. But at the time, the woman was telling us how there were soldiers in this creek bed, and it rained one of the days, and they drowned. They drowned in this creek bed from the water coming up, which I feel like I've been told is not entirely true now. But anyways, regardless, we were back there, and I remember it was the weirdest experience I've ever had. Prior to this, I'd always been afraid of it, so I never wanted anything to do with it. I was scared of ghosts. I was afraid of the unknown, as are most people when they are not familiar with this type of thing. They're afraid of it. So I was afraid of it. But anyway, one side of my body was the hot temperature it was outside, and then the other side of my body was freezing cold. And prior to coming on, I think I told you I have this, it's called thalassemia, where, my body is either hot or cold. There's no in between. I very pay much attention to my body temperature. And half of my body was hot because it was the summertime, and half was freezing, like cold. I was so cold. Now, mind you, it could be 60 degrees, but it feels 50 to me. So, but this was a significant difference. They had a thermometer with them, and they did one side, and it was like the normal temperature, what it would be, 99, 100, whatever. And the other side of me was, I think it was like 56 degrees. So that is a huge significance of a change. It's not just 10 degrees, Wow. I was standing by myself. Anytime anybody would come near me, it would go away, this cold feeling. So they decided to kind of use me as a trigger prop, really, if you will, or a bait. I don't know what you would call it, but so they stayed away from me. They put equipment around me, and they did an EVP session, and the girl had asked, do you like her? And they listened back on the recorder while we were all there. And when she said, do you like her? You heard a male voice and said, no, I love her. And I said, wow. Whoa, that was cool. All of a sudden I wasn't afraid anymore, really. Like I was more intrigued and interested and wanted to learn and wanted to be like, I said nobody else. I knew nobody else had said that. You know what I mean? It didn't sound like any of the men that were there. You would have heard. I mean, they were staying fairly close, but not up in my, not in my, not in my face, but they were like right there. I would have known if somebody else said that, or if a person would have said that. I also think EVPs tend to sound different than a human voice. Go ahead.
Do you mean like the way they pronounce the wording, or just the way that
it sounds to me? To me, I feel like EVPs are. It's first of all, it's my favorite type of evidence to get. It's my favorite thing. I will leave recorders going for the entire investigation because I don't want to miss anything. And I also can be clairaudient at times, not all the time, but at least once or twice on an investigation, I will hear responses or I will hear stuff. So EVPs are my favorite type of evidence.
So you've actually heard them in real time speaking?
Oh yeah. And I have it on record because, like I said, I record the entire time. So even if we're just shooting the shit. Oh, can I curse?
Yeah, you can. Hey, party on.
Even if we're just like shooting the shit and like whatever, my recorder's going. So if I hear something, I'll say it out loud right away. Mm-hmm. I say, did somebody just say this? And I'll say how I heard it. And when you listen back on the recorder, it's exactly what I heard. You'll hear it and then you hear me say it. And it's exactly what was heard, what was said.
Now, when you get your EVPs, do you you run them through a program, I would assume, and that way you can bump up the the mid-level and high audio ranges so that you can pull things out?
I have no idea how to. I don't have no idea how to fix audio.
Well, the reason why I was going to say that was I've been working with a music program for a long time, and it's there's an acid program, and then there's cakewalk and different stuff like that because I DJ in my spare time with music. But there's also another program. It's called Dragon Speak. And Dragon Speak, what Dragon Speak is it you speak into it, and it picks up your voice, and then it will type out whatever you're saying. And the reason why I mention this to you is I don't know if ghost hunters do this or have tried this, but a friend of mine was a Vietnam vet, and he had this room at his house where he had stuff that he had taken, like from, the war or whatever, artifacts from Vietnam or whatever. But anyway, we left his house, and, over in Vietnam, they study like, the Buddha, like talk about Buddha and stuff like that. That's kind of their religion over there. Well, he kind of picked up on it, and he kind of studied it, and he thought it was really interesting stuff about Buddha. Well, he wanted to write a book about his experiences in Vietnam, and so I went in and I set it up for him. And we left to go to town, and he left it on, and there was nobody in his house. The whole thing, like, he lived way back in the middle of nowhere, and there was nobody there at the house, and we left, and we came back, and this Dragon Speak program started talking about Buddha and quoting things out of their books and all kinds of stuff. But what I was getting at is trying to use Dragon Speak in real time, because you can, if you know what to look for on the audio for the EVPs, you can see where they kind of, you know what an EKG is, how an EKG reads a heartbeat. You know how it shoots up when there's something loud? Well, you can see in this Dragon Speak program and some of these audio programs, you can see where the EVPs are in the audio. Cool.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, you might be able to get more real-time audio EVPs watching something like that on a ghost hunt.
Oh yeah,
there was a little blurb, and then you go back and then review it. I often thought that would be a neat way to try it. I've never tried it myself, but
I wouldn't know the first thing. I'm very technically impaired, so I don't know how to edit photos. I don't know how to. I use Audacity to put my audio onto my laptop, so I know how to just. The only thing I know how to do is like cut the part out that I want
to make a loop.
And save it. As far as anything has to do with any of like the equalizing and minimizing and bass and treble and whatever else anybody does, I have no idea how to do it.
Yeah, you could probably learn that in about 3 minutes. It's really not. It's not that hard, but it'd be a really big asset for you to be able to clear up audio and pull it out. But
I honestly, I don't think I would ever want to. I don't think I would want to alter my EVPs. I mean, granted, I know there's times where they're very hard to hear, but I wouldn't present those to anybody anyway. The ones that are hard to hear, like I only would present whatever you can hear. I mean, to each his own. I mean, people I know. I mean, almost probably everybody I know probably uses programs to kind of like, and do that. But I think for me myself, I try to I have a lot of EVPs, but I would only present the ones that are
good enough good enough for people to see or hear or whatever.
Hear.
That's the way I am with evidence too. I don't really want to show everything. And like yesterday, I went through the woods taking pictures, and I went through the creek, and what I saw in the creek looked like a big footprint, but it wasn't good enough for me to take a picture of. So I just said, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah. So. I mean, I would have taken it for myself, but I don't think I would have.
Right.
Like said, oh, look, this is Bigfoot,
Yeah.
Hey, Lee, don't you know all pictures are blurry? Come on, man.
Oh yeah. Especially when it comes to that. Hey, Taryn, do you know who Guy Winters is?
I do not.
He captured a picture of a ghost called the, let's see here. What is it? The Pink Lady of Greencastle. And it's one of the clearest ghost photographs I've ever seen. But we had him on our show. He actually lives around where we live at. He's been on some different documentaries and stuff. But,
because of his picture?
Yeah, because of his picture.
What the heck?
Amazing pictures. I'll have to I'll have to share some later
And
with you.
he got a video
mind-blowing
of it.
stuff.
He actually got a video of it, and while he gets this video of it, you see this energy thing go by him, and it looked like a mist fly by him, and he said it looked like it turned around and looked at him and then went on. But he not only, check this out, Taryn, he not only got this picture of this ghost, but I think he got a couple other pictures of ghosts in there, and then he actually located the family that had lived in that house and showed a photograph to a lady in a nursing home, and she identified that ghost and said
Yeah, they were all. I think they were all sisters.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I do have a picture. I honestly, in all my years of investigating, I have two pictures that I would say that I have shared. One of them is actually hanging up in a store in Gettysburg. It's Mark Nesbitt's store. He's an author, an historian, and also a former park ranger for Gettysburg. And but he's been writing books, Ghosts of Gettysburg. He has 8 of them, I think, out now. But I sent my picture to him because I respect him and his work in the field and everything like that. And it took him a while. I mean, I guess they have to do things in order to go out. So before I presented my picture to anybody, I wanted to make sure that somebody that I respect looked at it, and and I got a couple of people to look at it. And he asked me if he could hang it up in his ghost. He has a ghost wall of pictures or whatever of over the years of people that have taken pictures in Gettysburg, and he'll hang them up if they're good. And he hung it up. And I went there. I was like, "Oh shit, there's my picture."
Cool.
But it looks like a soldier on the railroad cut, and I took this picture in 2010, and they said that he told me that the last Confederate grave was dug up there. They found him in 1996.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that's one of my things. That they also have the Brian Cano put that picture. He hung that. He has that as a part of his traveling mobile exhibit. It's the history of the paranormal, and he goes he's trying to go to all 50 states with this traveling mobile exhibit, history of the paranormal. And he took both of my photos and put it in his exhibit.
Wow, that's impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah, the other one was taken with a full spectrum camera, and it's a mist. But the significance with that is it looks like the mist is looks almost as if it's sitting a little bit. And like I said, it was with a full spectrum camera. So it's got that purplish pinkish haze to it, or the filter. And I might get this wrong, but it was either a lieutenant or a colonel, somebody high up in ranking was mortally wounded there. So, and I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know. I was actually just taking a picture of it because the monument was pretty cool, the way it was made. So I was taking a picture of it, and I was using my full spectrum camera, because if anybody uses their full spectrum camera just to take scenery pictures, I recommend it. It's awesome because the pictures come out the colors and the crispness of the pictures are amazing. So that's actually what I was doing. I wasn't even ghost hunting per se. I was just kind of taking scenery pictures, and there was that mist. So
have you seen, I don't know that this was at Gettysburg, but there's some footage. It's some night vision footage that some people took that looks like soldiers walking through the woods. Have you seen that?
Was that the family? Was that the home video?
Yes. It was a home video.
That I believe to be 100% real.
Wow.
I do too, and it really is like some of the best that I've ever seen.
That's
really,
probably the best video I've ever seen of any. I mean,
convinced me as well.
Yeah, there was a show that had that video on, and they must have enhanced it in a way where you can. Because I never saw it this way, but they must have lightened it and did something with the color to where you can actually, it looks like they're in a row marching back up the hill. in the field. Like, it's giving me chills thinking about it. It is phenomenal, that video.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best that I've ever seen. Have you seen the one? There's another one out, and I don't know if this was taken more recent, but the guy's standing looking down a lane, and you can see a soldier crossing, and it looks like he lifts his leg up and goes over a fence or something, and it's like they just keep that one right after another, just keeps going across the field.
I don't know if I've seen that one. I know that now, again, when my mom had brought me to Gettysburg, she was into ghosts at the time. I was not. I was, again, afraid. And my mom wanted to have this like interaction with something there, you know, like really, really bad. And I thought she was out of her mind.
Adventure mom.
Yeah, she really was. And we were staying at, it's called Doubleday Inn. It's the only inn that's actually in the park that you can stay at. When I say park, because a lot of people think that where all the monuments are was the battlefield, but the entire town of Gettysburg is the battlefield. The entire town. They fought everywhere. But the park is where they have the monuments, you know. So we were, and you're not allowed in there a half hour after sunset, which is stupid, but they have their reasonings. Anyways, at the time we were staying at this inn, so we were allowed to drive through the park and go to our inn, and that's what we were doing. It was midnight, and we were coming down. And ironically, it was the same place where I had gotten that picture. Then 3 years later, this was 3 years prior to me getting that picture. But as we were coming around the corner, she said, "What are all those rangers doing in the field?" And she was really she's like looking, and I said, "I don't see anybody." She goes, "There's so many of them." She's like, "What are they looking for?" And the term "you look like you just saw a ghost," I saw that for the first time. I haven't seen it again, but my mom literally turned pale white. She jumped back. She gasped. She goes, "Oh my gosh, did you just see those 4 soldiers almost hit your car? They were walking like as if they didn't even see us. They were just walking like across, like they were just going to walk into your car." I looked in the rearview mirror. I didn't see anything. You know, wow. I put my headlights on. I'm like looking everywhere. I didn't see anything in the field that she saw. I like turned around. You can turn around like 3 seconds up, you know, and I kind of like bullied my car around. And with my headlights, I was like trying to get the field lit up. You know what I mean? To kind of see all around, and there was nothing. If people were if they were walking across like that, I would have seen something. And she was freaked out. She was freaked out. I said, "Still want to see? You still want to talk to a ghost?" I was like, "See, that's why I don't do it." You know. Now I wish we could go back, and you know, but I would have gotten out, but it sounded to me like it was more residual anyway, regardless, since it was going to walk into my car. They were going to walk into my car. So there wouldn't have been any interaction at all anyway. But
how big of an area is this Gettysburg encompass?
Oh, jeez. Well, let me say, I have this little fact book if I could find it, but Gettysburg is, you know what? Let me look. I will tell you in 1 second. I should know this, right? How big? I know it's the biggest battlefield, you know, like Antietam, like as compared to any other battlefield in the United States. I feel like Gettysburg, I think I've heard, is the biggest. Give me 2 seconds. Gettysburg. Now this is Wikipedia. People can change this, right? Oh, this is
we'll have to talk about that residual. That's a question of mine for later. I've heard that brought up on a couple of your shows, and I'm still learning. And for the people watching, I was going to ask that as well. Like what residual means in the paranormal world.
Are you asking me, or you're just saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, for a residual.
Mm-hmm.
Residual to me is just basically, I feel like it's a recording, just like those people's video. I think that was residual. which is amazing that there is a digital recording of a natural recording. Blows my mind.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay, I
amazing.
got you.
Yes,
Okay.
it's amazing.
So to me,
So it's actual capturing an image of something that went on in the past.
yes, I feel like
Wow.
the land kind of, it's almost like a recording of what happened, which is why there's no interaction. They don't see us. They don't even if they did see my car, they're going to walk right through it, because they don't see us, because it's not, I don't think that it's necessarily a legit a haunting or whatever you want to call it, spirit. I think it's just a natural recording of the earth. The earth has certain, components in it that just can capture stuff in time, I think. And that's probably what we're seeing.
I feel like your connection with Gettysburg it's just so awesome. And I could sense that right away with you. And I'm wondering, do you think it's possible that whatever's going on with, you said you have a passion for this. I often wonder this too. It's almost like whatever's going on, it's like I wonder if they choose us. Do you ever think that?
Absolutely.
Me too.
100%. Wow. I think we all have, for a lack of a better description, I think we all have antennas. Mm-hmm. And I think our antennas, some of our antennas are longer than others. Some of ours will, just like dowsing rods will go towards one thing as opposed to going towards something else, if you will, and I think that if you go somewhere and you're not feeling nothing and you go out, you leave there, you didn't get, I just think that it's that your energy and the place and nothing really just, it didn't happen at the same time or the right time like it was supposed to, Me and you could be sitting here and you could see somebody walk across the room and I won't see it.
Oh, wow.
Because it wasn't meant for me. My energy or my spidey senses, if you will, just aren't that in tune with whatever energy is there at the time,
I've never thought about it that way. That kind of like when you said your mom saw the spirits almost go into your car while driving and you didn't see it. So kind of like that.
Yeah, I didn't see it at all. And, it was the same weekend. I had a lot of stuff happen this first weekend, which is why, I went there and I was like, first it was like I love her thing. And then it was, she saw, even though I didn't see it, I saw her. I know her. I know that one, she's not going to make anything up. Two, she wasn't afraid to get out and walk into the field at 9:00 at night without me because I'd stayed in the car. She wasn't afraid of it. She wanted to have this experience and to see her reaction to whatever it was. Like I could tell she wasn't expecting that to happen, nor did she think it would be that I don't know what word to use.
Profound.
Yeah, like I don't think she would. She expected it to be what it was, for her reaction. I mean, she was pale white, shaking, freaked out.
Oh wow.
And then not too freaked out though. To the next night, wanting to get out of my car and go walk into the wheat field to go talk to ghosts is what she told me. And I said, "You go ahead. I'll be fine here. I'm not getting out of this car. I'll wait." And, she, as we were discussing it, I smelled, I thought she farted, to be honest with you. And then she thought I farted and I said, I did not, but that smells really rank. And on her side on the passenger side window, there were 3 hard bangs. And the window actually moved. It was that hard. And wow. I put my foot on the gas pedal and I took off.
Was it like
nobody standing there?
Was it like a bang, like somebody banging on the window, or like the percussion of a gunshot?
No, banging on the window. Like,
oh, wow.
hello, like let me in, or hi, what,
Here's what you're looking for.
yeah. And nobody was there, and I took off. I was like,
Taryn,
nope.
that smell, did that stinky smell like sulfur?
Yeah, it was like sulfur. So, but I don't think it was anything bad. I think it was just gunpowder or something like that.
Okay.
I think that's what we were ultimately smelling was gunpowder at the end of the day. I think that's what it was.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
That's interesting. I've heard people mention the sulfur smell around cryptid sightings, which is interesting too.
No, I didn't know that.
I went outside one morning heading to work, and it was dark, dark 30. And, I've hunted enough that you hear sounds in the woods. Even early in the morning, you'll hear stuff. But it was dead quiet. And there was this thick smell of sulfur in the air. And it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck.
Well, yeah.
And I knew there was a predator around somewhere. There was something around around that area.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I would have approached those situations differently, knowing what I know now. And maybe I would have gotten maybe more answers. But I know that what I experienced was definitely not normal and of this world. It doesn't make sense why I would hear banging on my passenger side window, see the window moving, and there's no one there. There's nothing there.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
No. So I don't know what that was. I didn't feel threatened. Well, okay, I lie because I took off. But it wasn't I mean, most people, when I tell that story, they think automatically because of the sulfur smell that they think it was like something negative or whatever. And I'm like, it wasn't that. It was more like little girl scared. You know what I mean? Like, let me take off, Right. If it had been reversed, like if that would have been my first experience, it probably would have scared me enough to not go into the paranormal.
That makes sense.
Because it was so like in our faces.
Wow.
That's true.
That Gettysburg, did you figure out how big it was, or is it?
I start talking and then I'm like,
no, that's okay. Do you know if it's like miles long? Or are we talking acres big?
Okay, so Gettysburg Battlefield. This says that.
This is interesting here.
So it says the locations of the military engagements extend from the 4-acre site of the first shot to.
Wow.
So that's still not telling me. Why can't I just get a direct answer? All right, so it's 9 square miles.
That's big. That's pretty good. That's a big chunk of land. That was a big battle. If it was 9 square miles of battling.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so let me say, so it's they're just saying the park now. The Gettysburg National Military Park is 9 square miles.
Oh, okay.
Which is humongous. It has 1,600 Civil War monuments and markers and tablets. And it says it includes the cannon that fired the first shot. It has like both generals' headquarters. You know what amazes me the most about Gettysburg is that some of these buildings are well over. I mean, Gettysburg was founded, I think, in 17. It was way before the Civil War. Let me see if this says. Yep, laid out in the 1780s by James Geddes. So he called it Geddestown at first.
Oh wow!
But it was renamed in 1800. It says when it became the county seat. Yeah.
How close to that to Washington D.C. is that, Taryn? Is that very close to Washington?
So Maryland, I don't know how far it is. I've never driven from Gettysburg to D.C. Now, it's about the same hours apart. Like it takes me about 2.5 hours to get to Gettysburg from where I live.
Oh wow! Reason why I was saying that was because me and my mom, we went to Washington D.C. and we went through Pennsylvania, and man, we got some bad vibes going through there. And the
Really?
only other time that we've done that is there's a place here, be northeast of us, and there was a massacre where these soldiers from the it wasn't the Revolutionary War. It was the War of 1812, where they went through an Indian village and they just slaughtered everybody in the village, men, women, children. And when you get up close to that area, there's just like this sinking, depressing, lonesome feeling through that whole area up through there. And we felt that through Pennsylvania when we went through there. But when we got close, yeah.
See, I love Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania, it has such a rich history. I believe that Gettysburg is the heartbeat of our nation. I believe that what happened at Gettysburg, I mean, is probably the most important thing that's ever happened in American history. I'm a very patriotic person, and so being there on those hallowed grounds and being amongst, feeling the hollow ground and just feeling the spiritual connection that you have when you go there with whatever's there. It literally touched me to the core. It's the core, and
that's amazing.
Yeah, there's people that go there and they say they pick up on all the fighting and the death, and they can't be there. And I feel really sorry for people that have that experience, because for me, I pick up on the in between, the conversations the guys are having around the fires at the end of the night after the fighting's done. That will to go on, that fight inside of them, that pride of the victories, or that passion inside of them for what they're fighting for, whatever the reasons may be. I mean, you have to remember, this was brother against brother.
Oh yeah.
They had best friends on the opposite sides that they were shooting at. I mean, Wesley Culp, he lived in Gettysburg. He left Gettysburg to go fight with the Confederates and came back and wound up being shot on his family farm in Gettysburg. So he left, came back, fought in Gettysburg, and that whole entire thing was by chance. They met in Gettysburg by chance, and then everything else that happened, where they thought they were strategically doing things, the Confederates. I mean, there were things that happened just by chance that was the turning point for the Civil War, that the Union started winning after that, and everything was by chance there, and to me, there was something to be said about that even.
Oh yeah.
It's like, it's crazy.
The Kling brothers, didn't they get some footage from Gettysburg of some soldiers through a field? And yes. I saw a clip of that, and it looked like they were walking through a field with a big American flag. And I thought, if that footage is real, that is the best right there.
I do believe that to be real. I do. There's people that will argue with me on that one. Not the family shot video, but I believe that one to be, I mean, think about it. This was VHS recording. There's no digital anything to do it. You know what I mean? Like back then it was in the 90s, when they got this footage, and that's not the first time anybody has claimed to see stuff like that. I mean, there have been famous people. There's been, generals and military. I mean, the military gets taken there all the time, but people have reported seeing these residual stuff, like even looking into buildings and seeing surgeries happening, and people are like, wow, what an awesome reenactment you put on for us. And the park's like, we didn't do a reenactment, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something. That Kling brother footage, that was breathtaking. It was even in color. It looked like it was in color.
Yes. And I'm sorry, but there are reenactors, but they're not trudging through the battlefield like that. I mean,
what stood out to me in that video was the size of that American flag. it's not like
and that's how big they
it's,
were.
Yeah, it's not anything like what we see now. And it was different. It was a different looking flag than what we have now. It didn't look like it was something that we would have now.
No.
That's what stood out to me
Mm-hmm.
the most.
Yeah, those are battle flags, and that's where a lot of times people, they don't realize how many battle flags there actually were. And I actually zoomed in on that, and I know where this is. Me and Brad Kling had actually talked about this, because I said I can't zoom in far enough to see, because there's a couple of flags that are being held in that video, and they're actually walking away from where General Lee's monument is.
Huh.
So that is where. So here it looks like a Union regiment. So if they're walking away from where Lee's monument was is where the Confederate line started when they did Pickett's charge, when they walked across the field. So the way that in his video where that Union regiment's walking is the exact way where Pickett's men came from and the way they walked. So I said to Brad, I'm like, this had to have been at the end, because why would the Union regiment just be out there in the middle of the field where Pickett's charge was, and because after that, Lee's men, they left, so Lee and his men left. So that had to be afterwards, to me.
Well, that makes sense. That's a good observation. That's awesome.
Look what Rooster in the chat put when y'all were talking about that place. He said Jeff Wingert of Northeastern Ohio Bigfoot Group actually went there and seen a general riding a horse when he visited that place.
Well, you know who else? During the battle there, men on Little Round Top had claimed to have seen what they compared to a George Washington-like figure come up on a white horse.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So that was in 1863 that there was quite a few men that had witnessed this, what looked like Revolutionary War soldier not walk up. He was on a white horse and came up. Now, I don't know what happened after that, but that was just the claim that that's what they saw. So that's interesting that somebody else had seen something like that. You know what else is interesting? This past weekend when I was there, Bigfoot's starting to make his way there. Just so you guys know.
Hey, Pennsylvania is a big Bigfoot spot.
Yeah. Let me see. I didn't put these up. I took these from my friend Eric Altman. I was going to share it with him because I haven't really seen too much stuff with Bigfoot, but I mean, this was one of the things they were selling.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So I thought, here they also had like Christmas socks with.
Awesome.
So I thought that was really cool. I've never, I've heard claims of people that were walking down Big Round Top and have heard an unexplainable screech, screams, whatever, that they never heard before. So I know people have definitely claimed to have had an encounter there. 5%.
Okay. On your the different types of hauntings, there's residual haunting, correct? And then isn't there like an acoustic haunting type thing where like there's sounds over and over, like the environment will play the sounds back also instead of like images?
Yeah, I think that would kind of fall again into, in my opinion, into residual.
Okay.
If it's something that's repetitive, something that, if you hear a woman crying every night at the same exact time.
Mm-hmm.
Or go ahead.
Have you heard any like cannon fire or
yes,
musket fire?
I've heard muskets. I've heard snare drums.
Oh, cool.
That was cool because you don't expect to hear something like that, but it was like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, and that was really cool. I've heard that. I was at the 20th Main Monument. I'm a huge Joshua Chamberlain huge Joshua Chamberlain fan. So I love the 20th Maine. I love what they did at Gettysburg and everything. So I was there and I was by myself. I was doing an EVP session, like a little quick one. And not thinking, I just said, "Are you from Pennsylvania?" Now, normally you would say, "Are you from Maine?" since you're at the 20th Maine Monument, right?
Mhm.
But I was thinking, look, "Are you from Pennsylvania?" Luckily, I asked that because the EVP I got back was no, Maine.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now, I will say this: I do think that 98% of my 98% of my interactions that I've had in Gettysburg with an unknown phenomena has been intelligent. I do believe that because of my connection with Gettysburg, whatever it may be, I think that's why I do get mostly the intelligent answers or things that tend to not be more residual than not, because you would think a place like that, it would be residual. There were 50,000 casualties in 24 hours. 50,000 casualties in 24 hours. You would think,
Man,
casualties, that includes wounded, missing, prisoners of war. That includes everything, not just deaths. But that doesn't include the horses. That doesn't include, because I can't even, I have this little fact book here, but it would take me a while to look for it. But that's a lot of death.
Yeah, I was just thinking that to put that into perspective, I think 9/11 was like 3,000 something victims. To think of 50 as just
50,000. 50,000
wow.
of American soldiers, American men and women.
It's hard to imagine that.
I love it. I love it. We're getting a history lesson. I love it.
I love history too. I think it's pretty amazing. Do you ever do any like graveyard stuff? Taryn, have you done any?
Yeah, so there's a in Jersey we have the Pine Barrens. I don't know if you guys have ever heard
Jersey
of the Pine
Devil.
Barrens.
Jersey Devil,
which I do not believe in.
Mother Leeds, right?
Yeah, I don't believe in the Jersey Devil. I believe that the Jersey Devil is I believe that there was a woman that had a disformed child, for sure. I believe that it was so disformed, like, you hear stories back in the day when they would hide these children because they were embarrassed or thought they would get taken or whatever the case may be, But I do believe that there was a disformed child born, and I think the legend of that grew into what we know is now the Jersey Devil.
And you know how cruel people are about stuff like that,
exactly.
too. Which
and back then they didn't care. They didn't have the same types of upbringings and outlooks and on the compassion for life that we do now.
Right.
Back then it was, you're 7 years old, you're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you're going to help out the farm and you're doing this, it was a work driven type of a people back then, they didn't, and God forbid, you have a disformed child that could be a witch or it could be so I think the Jersey Devil, out of all of the cryptids, and if that's even, is that considered?
There went another orb behind you, Taryn. There's one right behind you.
I saw that.
Did you see it, David?
Really?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. It was pretty good size too.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm probably getting yelled at.
Sorry to interrupt.
The Jersey Devil doesn't exist.
No, yes, yeah. The Jersey Devil is definitely labeled a cryptid, but I'm there with you. I've always been on the fence about it. I'm just not sold on it. Or the Mothman, really.
No, not the Mothman.
There's people putting out pictures now on the internet and of these, and I recognize it as a birth defect. They're saying that these babies are lizard, reptilian, alien babies, and I try to correct people on it and put out there what it is, and I've even found the correct term, and it's on the same level as that. They would take something like that and say, well, he's a devil, a devil child. Probably had
right.
like the thalidomide babies where they had like the two like lobster claw fingers. It could have been something like that they thought it had hooves or
Right.
you know
Yeah,
trait
and
of the devil.
next thing you know, they're in a circus and they're
Right.
this or that, you know.
Yeah. So I just don't believe in the Jersey Devil. You know, I can't say anything about any of the other ones because I've never really, you know, Paranormal Brew started out mostly just a paranormal. When I say paranormal, I can't even say paranormal anymore because I think all of this is under the same umbrella now.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to when I started Paranormal Brew, it was all ghosty stuff, you know? And I said, I need to learn more about other stuff. So this is when I started having UFO guys on, Bigfoot guys on. I've had Men in Black people, you know, people that research Men in Black. I've had parapsychologists on, actual physicians that do ghost hunting on the side, like to get it more. I've had skeptics on. I've had, you know, to broaden my horizons. You know, I did go squatch hunting once, which was interesting because I wanted to see how similar the techniques were that we do for paranormal investigating. But that was interesting. I mean, I did have a interesting thing happen there when we went, unexplainable, but no Bigfoot, unfortunately.
Have you ever been with a group of people out hunting ghosts or paranormal or whatever, and you see them doing things and you think, man, this is disrespectful and I'm not hanging around here, I'm out of here? I went on a ghost hunt one night with some people and they had kids with them and the kids were running over the gravestones and everything else, and I said, let's pack it up, we're out of here, I'm gone. Yep. And I left. Yeah. We actually caught an EVP there, and it said get out. Yeah. And I can understand why.
So it sounds like we've had similar instances with this. There's a cemetery, which I was going to talk about. Now we can round back to that. Because I have ADD really bad. I'll go.
Me too.
Reel me back. Just reel me back in. It's called Atzion Cemetery. And it's, for some reason, I'm drawn to this cemetery. I go there a lot. I've had a lot of EVPs. I have a lot of respect for whatever is there. And whatever is there, whether it be spirit mixed with, I believe, maybe some Indian type spiritual stuff. When I go there, the first thing I have to do is I feel like I have to just kind of let them know we're here out of respect. We're not here because I feel like, you know, we're being watched, you know, like very intently being watched, you know, until it knows that we're okay, you know. And I did a friend a favor. They wanted me to take them ghost hunting, and she had a couple of people come with her. And when we got there, I had learned that 2 of them were drunk off their asses. And one of them had gone back into the tree line, into the woods, and was going to the bathroom and yelling and screaming and cursing. And I said, that's it. I said, this is not how we do things. I said, especially with me and here. I'm like, I don't know what you guys, you know, I don't know what you're into. I said, this is totally ending right now. And I shut it down. We left. Listening back on my recorder, when she was yelling and cursing and squatting in the woods, what sounded like a little girl saying, she scares me.
Wow.
So I'm glad that I shut it down and left, because I definitely, you know, that is something that I won't tolerate at all. And I will tell somebody about it.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you, Taryn.
Yeah, that is so disrespectful. I mean, that's something, to me, that's something even a child should know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that cemetery to me is awesome. I've had some really, really good EVPs out of there, some good experiences from there. There's actually 2 of them. There's the Atzion Cemetery, and then there's Bat Stove Cemetery. So there's 2. And you go from one to the other one, you know, and Bat Stove also has Bat Stove Village, which is really awesome to go and visit. I mean, it was a little mini town that's now abandoned, but they have it open. They have a mansion there. You can go in and everything. And how like the workers, all their little huts are there. And it was a mill, I believe, an iron mill, maybe not iron. I can't remember exactly. I'm really bad with remembering deep history details.
That's okay.
But it's a really cool place to go to as well.
That's amazing. I saw a ghost here where my mom lives. It's kind of an old town, and there's a house that sits on the corner up across the street from her house. And you know, the old lawn furniture, it's almost like an iron looking furniture. It's like
yes,
like maybe like 1900s type of lawn furniture. We pulled up to, my mom has to go to the post office to get her mail, so we pulled up to the post office, which is just right there too. And as we pulled up, I looked over at that house, and they had lawn furniture sitting out there like that, and there was this woman sitting in this chair, and she had her legs crossed, and she had it was like a robin green colored dress on. And what stood out about it was her hair was up in a bun on the top of her head, and then she had these pleats, billowy pleats in the shoulders of the dress that she had on, and it looked like it was almost homemade. And she was barefoot, and she was sitting there with her legs crossed, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like thinking, well, when did the Amish buy this house? Because, you know, that's what it kind of reminded me of, because I lived near Amish down south. And so I'm sitting there looking at her, and then I think to myself, I wonder if this is a ghost, because I'd never seen anybody in that front yard ever at that house.
Well, and barefoot and stuff, like who be, you know?
Yeah. And so my mom opened the door, and so I turned and looked at her, and then I looked back, and she was gone, just in a second.
That's awesome.
I know that was a ghost.
That's cool.
So
that's cool. I myself, I sitting here right now, I can't recall if I've ever definitely have seen anything with my eye. I know I've heard things, but visual, like I have not. There's been times where, you know, you think you see things, you know, or you thought you saw something, but I can't confirm if I actually did or not. So, you know, I can't say that I did. You know, there's a house in Evesham, that Marlton, New Jersey, it's called, and it's a mansion, and for some reason I went in. I don't know. I drove past it all the time, going back and from work. I'd always look at it. They eventually had a fence go around it. And it's called Savage Field, and the Savage Field's really, really big. There used to be an old mansion on there. They were farmers, like dairy farmers. So there was like a whole bunch of buildings and farming and all this and that. Some of the buildings have been knocked down. The house still remains. There's a barn that remains. Well, the historical and found artifacts that dated back. So the town had bought it in the 80s, and they were going to make it into this huge recreational park, but you have to go through stuff, right? So the historical people come in, they're digging, they find artifacts that dated back 1300 BC, like unknown civilization artifacts. They're thinking that it might be maybe Indian related, but they're not sure. They didn't know. So obviously there's like parts of this that the town couldn't touch to build a softball field on, you know?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which I thought was really cool. I didn't even know that until talking to a police officer that, you know, was working in the town, you know, because I was trying to get him to get me in there. I was like, get me in that mansion. I was like, come on. Yeah, so I was driving past one day. Now I drive past this house all the time. Like, you know, I was driving past it twice a day, to work, from work, or lunch. You know, I would drive past and I'd always look. And this one time I drove by, I looked over, and it had looked like maybe a servant or a waiter or something like that was standing on the front porch and just walked straight into the house without like opening a door.
Oh, wow.
Or anything. Just walked from the porch into the house. And I was like, what the?
Oh, cool. Did
I just see that? And of course, in your head, you're like, maybe it was my hair. Did my hair wisp in my eyeball or something? You're trying to like find these like explanations, of anything. And I can't. But again, I didn't have anything to capture that, to go back and look or anything.
But you saw it. That's the thing. You know that you saw it.
I did see it.
I work in the hospital, and I've heard some ghost stories at night at the hospital and everything, but I had something happen to me one day. I had to take I had to go to the morgue, I should say. And, on labor and delivery, when you go to the morgue, it's not a good thing. But anyway, I was going to the morgue and I had to catch the elevator. And I went and I hit the button on the elevator. And as the elevator door was getting ready to open up, one of the nurses said something to me, need me to take a lab down to lab or something. And so I turned around and I'm talking to her. And as I'm getting ready to turn around, I see a woman come up behind me and she's getting on the elevator. She come around the corner and starts to get on the elevator. And so I went over, got the lab, and then turned around, and the elevator doors were closing. So I stuck my arm in there like a dummy to open it back up, and it opened up, and I started to say, sorry for stopping you from going. And there was nobody in the elevator.
That's
and
cool.
So the nurse that that handed me the lab, I said, did you just see a woman get on the elevator behind me? And she said, yes. And so she saw it. She saw it too.
Awesome. Validity. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I could tell you what, it was a little old lady. We got these volunteers that work at the hospital, and they wear these red jacket scrub tops. She had that on. She had khaki pants on, white tennis shoes. She had glasses and a gray hair. And there was another time we were sitting at the nurse's desk. Me and a nurse was sitting there, and there's this pillar that's right beside the nurse's station, and then the window where you look at the babies is on the other side of it.
Right.
Well, we saw this person come walking down the hallway and walked right up behind that pillar, and they didn't go on around or come back the other way. And so I was like, this is getting weird. So I stood up and I walked over, and I looked, and there was nobody there. And I looked at that nurse. I said, did you just see somebody go up there? And she said, yes.
That's cool. You guys should have Don Molnar on.
Don Molnar.
Don Molnar. He's AKA Haunted MD.
Oh, cool.
He's a physician. He works in an ER.
Mm-hmm.
And he works 7 days a week, but he's off 7 days. And the days that he's off, he goes with local groups. He'll go investigating and but he's had some awesome experiences in the hospital.
Yes.
His experiences are awesome.
Thank you. You gave us a few.
Please. Those Justin Bamforth, you guys will love. He's amazing.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate you telling us that.
Yeah.
There was another, we've had patients call out in the middle of the night and say that a man came in their room and sat on the edge of their bed and disappeared. We had a nurse that saw a little girl come to the door of one of the rooms. The door was open down on the pediatric unit, which is opposite ours. And she said it was like 2:00 in the morning. She was like, how did this little girl get out here? Somebody's lost their kid, And the little girl saw her and turned around and walked back in the room. She immediately got up, went behind the little girl, nobody in the room. And then one day, my boss and I were walking down the hallway. We were heading to her office. And there was a set of double doors, and then there's a patient room right before the double doors on the right-hand side. And as we start to step through the double doors, my boss stops and she said, I think that lady back there needed some help. And I'm like, lady? I was like, I didn't see nobody. And she said, yeah, there was a lady standing back there at the door. I think she needed some help. And so she went back. She opened up the door where that lady was standing, looking at her. And there was so many baby cribs in that room. You couldn't have, the door just barely opened. There was nobody in that room.
That's so cool.
Empty.
And then, a lot of people, I'm sure would say, okay, well, these people are on medicines. They're all doped up and they're this and that. But you know what? For me, I think it's just like, when your mind is at that state where it's almost like when people have visit dreams, and or if they're just about to go to sleep, it's almost as if your mind.
You're in that state that you can access.
Yeah, like
access
it's
that.
almost as if your mind, you see them when your mind can make, so you're not as afraid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like it makes it a familiar type of a sight.
Mm-hmm.
So your brain so they don't scare you, so and because a lot of times people ask me like, aren't you afraid? I'm like, well, before I know what the heck is happening, it's done and over with. Like it's so quick, that you don't have time to be afraid, because you're like, what did I just
see that? That's the thing that plays over and over in your mind. Did I just see that? Really? Did I see that?
Right.
Yeah.
But I think those are the people that can see, like, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and I say this to people, because she had Alzheimer's, and her house was like a Frank Sinatra museum, right? I mean, there were pictures of Frank Sinatra everywhere. And there was one of my grandfather. And when she started to get that, I would talk about him, but she didn't know who he was. She just did. He had died very early on in their marriage. She never remarried, never did anything like that. She was like diehard Catholic, like it was, that was it. That was her end all be all, and she was in her 80s when she passed. So, and they were in their 50s when my grandfather passed. So this is like 30 something years, right? So even though Alzheimer's tends to bring up your long-term memory and you lose your short-term memory, she didn't remember who he was. And we were sitting there one night, and I was, helping her eat and stuff. And she's like, oh, Robert's here. And oh no, she said Bob. I'm sorry. She said Bob's here. And I'm like, Bob? Right away, I go into investigate. I'm like, Bob who? I'm like, who you talking about? Like, is it, you mean your son, Bob? And she's like, no, Bob. Now, I must have looked like my mom, like, because she said, your father. And I was like, you mean Papa? I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what's he saying? She's like, he's ready for us. I was like, who? Wait, what? Us? I was like,
slow down.
I was like, you better tell him I ain't ready to go nowhere. I don't know what he's talking about, us. I was like, well, why is this plural? I was like, what's happening? And she's like, and I said, real? I was like, really? I was like, what does he mean by that? She's like, I don't know. She's like, I never understood anything you ever said anyway. And then like that, she was out of it. Then she was just like back to like not knowing what we're talking about, But in those, I it's just like when people say that kids have imaginary friends. I think 8 out of 10 of those, they're really not imaginary friends.
That's funny you mentioned that.
I totally agree.
Because I was getting ready to tell you about a lady that I know. She's a psychic lady, and I nicknamed her the Ghost Witch of Valhalla is what I call her, because that's the name of the road where she lives. Anyway, she takes photographs. She goes out and takes photographs and tries to get pictures of ghosts. And she's got this picture of her and her grandson that somebody took of them. And she's leaning down talking to this little boy, and the front door is open right beside him. And you can see the reflection in the door, the front door, and you can see the road behind him. And there's a man standing behind them, and the little boy had an imaginary friend, and you can see the man standing behind him on the road, and he's got a flannel shirt on, suspenders, and he's a heavy set older gentleman. And when the picture was developed or whatever, they were looking at it, and she's like, well, who's that guy standing behind us? And showed it to her son, and her son like turned white as a ghost, and like he saw a ghost, and he said, I know exactly who that is. And she says, well, who is it? And he said that it's the man that owned the restaurant down the road. His picture is hanging up in that old abandoned restaurant. Oh, wow. And he had passed away. But and you could see it clear as a bell. I mean, you could see everything, all the detail.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I mean,
I think
I don't discount anybody for anything that they claim, because I believe that people believe that they've experienced things. You know, I think you can tell the difference between somebody that's faking something as opposed to somebody that really believes that they had an experience that they can't explain. And whether or not you can help them through that, I mean, the last 5 private cases that have come my way, I didn't do an investigation through the phone, over the phone, and maybe a visit during the day when I went over there. You know, I was able to help them feel better about their living space, you know, that they didn't want an investigation. They said, you know what? We're good. Like everything that you gave us to do and everything, you know, like this and that has really helped us here, you know. So we don't need, we're not afraid. You know, they were afraid at first, you know, but we're not afraid anymore. So we're just going to see where it goes, you know. And I think that, you know, those are the best cases to get.
absolutely. When you've done your investigations, have you ever noticed a you know what a static electricity sounds like a snap of static electricity or a pop? Have you ever heard anything like that?
Buzzing.
The reason why I mentioned that static electricity snap is I was at my aunt's house, and she had this dog, and the dog, when we were kids, we would play Ouija board in my cousin's bedroom, and this dog would go at night and would go and lay in the doorway of the bedroom, and it would bark like it was seeing somebody, like nonstop. And so me and my cousin were in the house, nobody else was in the house, and we were sitting on the couch, and this dog jumps up on my lap and is sitting there letting me pet it. And from behind me, where the hallway is, where the kitchen is, I hear this static, like a snap of static electricity, just like a snap.
Mhm.
And when I hear this snap, the dog perked up and looks right behind me, right back down the hallway. So immediately in my mind, I'm thinking this dog sees something, and I'm even thinking ghost. And so
Right.
immediately I turn and I look, and there is, and standing in the doorway is a ghost peeking around the side of the doorway, and it sees that I can see it and takes off, and I can see the shadow across the room on the inside of the room where it was at, and you could hear what sounded like footsteps, like you know, like people with slippers on, maybe going across the floor, like sliding across the floor. And
Oh,
my
wow.
cousin's sitting there, and he can hear it. And I said, "Did you just hear that?" I said, "I just seen a ghost right there." And I said, "There ain't nobody else in here, right?" And he said, "No." And so I get up and I go and look, and there wasn't anybody there, but I sure seen it. I seen it standing there.
Oh, I believe you.
Wow.
It's funny you say that, because I lived in Ohio for 3 years, and when I lived in Ohio, I lived in an old house, and the apartments were spread out like per floor, and I was on the top floor, and it was a pretty old house. Like it still had the bells for the servants, you know, for the people that were, if they were downstairs, they would just, the bells would ring upstairs, and you know, if they needed them. So that's where I was living, and our door so you would walk in a big house, and each door inside was an apartment, right? So you would be walking up the steps or whatever. So our door inside had one of the chain links on the inside, and I was woken up by our door shutting. You know, I heard the door shut, and all of a sudden I heard this scurrying in my living room, as if somebody was running across the living room floor and then dragging their feet really fast. So it was like,
yeah.
And I sat there and I listened for a second. I was like, what the fuck is that? Now, this was before I was into anything paranormal.
I bet you were scared to death.
I was sweating my ass. I was under my blanket, like, oh my gosh. This is like 9:30 in the morning. I was a baby. Wow. There's a bat under my bed. I was too afraid to get that. I was like, so I like get the phone, and I'm calling my boyfriend at work. I'm like, you need to come home. Somebody's in the house. He was like, what? I'm like, come home. Somebody's in the house. I legit thought somebody was in the house. Like, it was so freaky to me how loud this was. I was like, you need to come home. So like the clothes I was wearing, you thought I stepped in the shower and stepped out. Like I was so afraid. And he finally was like, do not make me call the police. just get the bat and go. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, it sounds like there's like somebody in the living room just like having a heyday, like running around and dragging their feet. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. Finally, I did. I mustered up the courage to go, and there was nothing. There was nothing in the house. The chain was still on the door. There was nothing. The experiences I had there, glad I didn't know what I know now, because you know what I mean? Like, actually, I wish I would have known what I know now. I take that back because I probably would have approached it a little bit differently. But, there were a few things that happened there that, were kind of crazy. But I know what you're talking about with that noise. That was the point of my story, because I had a similar situation happen.
Attachments to objects. The reason why I'm going to mention this is my cousin and I, we shared a house out in the country down south. And I don't know where he got it from, but he got a full-length mirror from somebody, like one of them ones that hang on the wall. Mm-hmm. And so he put it in he puts this mirror in his bedroom. And so about maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I hear him screaming. And I yell in there. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Are you all right?" And he said, "I just had this dream that my hands were on fire and they were melting." And so the next night, same thing, 1:30, 2 o'clock, it happens. So a day or two goes by, nothing significant happens. And he brings that mirror and he says, "Here," he says, I want to let you have this mirror." So he just like sets it around the corner in my room. And I'm like, well, that's weird. And so that night I had this dream that there was a demon trying to attack me. And I put 2 and 2 together and I thought, this mirror has got bad energy to it. So I took this mirror and I set it out in the garage. And I set it by the exit door in the garage, And so about a day or so goes by and I'm at the house by myself and I hear this banging and clanging going on. And I'm like, what the hell is this noise? And so I go looking for it. I can't find it. And so I go in the kitchen where the access door to the garage was at, and I could hear it in the kitchen. So I hear this banging going on out in the garage. Well, I live out in the middle of nowhere, or we lived out in the middle of nowhere, and I knew I was the only one there. So I thought, what the hell is this? So I open up the door to the garage, flip the light on, and that mirror is sitting over there by that, the exit door to the garage, and that door is slamming, banging. It's like somebody's grabbed it from the other side and they're trying to open it up, but it won't open, and it's just banging, banging, banging. And so I go in, I get the shotgun thinking somebody's, trying to break in. So I go in, sneak around the house, nobody around. I mean, just woods and birds and everything else, but nobody around. And so we got rid of that, and that kind of stopped. I was DJing one afternoon, and when you DJ, you're used to hearing different sounds and mixing things when you're mixing music together. So you're good at hearing stuff like that when you're doing that. Yeah. So I'm like DJing and I'm mixing beats and stuff, and all of a sudden I hear this bang noise, and I'm like, well, that wasn't there. And I thought somebody came to the house, and so I shut everything down and started walking through the house and looking, didn't see anything. And my cousin had bought his son a little toy gun, and he had it sitting on his like dresser, like sitting up on top to where he couldn't get it, because he just let him play with it when he was with him so that he could teach him about it. And this thing had flown down the hallway and hit the wall right beside my bedroom. And I don't know and it had to have been some kind of poltergeist activity. There was nobody there. There wasn't nobody around. Wow. And that kind of spooked me. But there was some activity going on in that house. Like you were talking about your cat earlier.
Yeah.
You were thinking that you felt that energy. I was sitting, check this out. I was sitting in the living room, and I was there by myself again, and I was watching TV, and I caught movement out of the corner of my eye going across the hallway. And I turned and I looked, and I saw the apparition of the little dog that we had there that had passed away. He walked across the hallway, and I could see him as clear as day. And he walked right into the utility room, and I thought, man, it made the hair stand up on the back of my neck.
So you sound like you're very sensitive. You can see.
Yes, the first thing I ever saw, this is how long ago it was. The Exorcist had came out, and it was playing on TV, so it'd probably been out a few years. But The Exorcist was on TV, and I was so little. My mom was holding me in a rocking chair, and she was watching it. And it was to that part where the little girl starts spinning her head around, and it's it's crazy. And so I'm like covering my eyes up, and I'm like leaning over, scared, looking, and I'm looking in the corner of the room, and the head of a man came through the wall. And he had a like white hair, snow white, shoulder length hair. He had a full mustache and beard, and his head come out of the wall, and he shot right towards my face.
Oh wow!
And I closed my eyes because I thought he was going to hit me in the face. But that was the first thing that I've seen. And then
that would have freaked me out.
I've had some more paranormal stuff happen to me, but
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've never had anything like that happen. I think I had when I was at Rolling Hills Asylum, which if anybody ever has the chance to go there, please go there. That place is amazing. But Rolling Hills Asylum, we were doing an event there, and I had a group of patrons with me, that had paid to do this investigation. And we were in the hallway, and this one room, we were hearing a bunch of tinking going on. And now there were chairs in there, metal chairs,
Mm-hmm.
But, as an investigator, you have to check it out. We were hearing these noises. So I took a patron with me, and we walked, and we were outside the room where it was coming from. And we could still hear it. And it was louder. And it was random. It was almost like somebody was just going around and like tapping the chairs with something, because you were hearing this ting, ting, ting. And I'm like, and we're looking at each other, and I'm like, you hear that? She's like, yeah, I hear it. And we're talking, and all of a sudden on the side of my cheek, I could feel the breath. Like that's how close this was. But you could just hear it was like this little goofy laugh. It was like, ho, 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 ho. Like it was joke. It was getting a kick out of us, like trying to figure out what it is. Like
that's creepy.
I felt it. I felt the breath on my cheek. She heard it. I heard it. Got it called on my recorder. Everything. And I'm like, did you hear that? She's like, fuck yeah, I heard that. I'm out. I was like, no, you don't leave. This is what you're here for.
Don't go.
I think a lot of the reason why I've seen stuff like this, and I have, I kind of have some psychic stuff also going on, is my mom is a twin. And my mom's and her sister, they have they have the ability to wear, like, they live real far away from each other. They'll buy the same outfits. They'll buy the same purse. They'll buy everything and not even talk to each other.
That's
and
awesome.
Then they will know when the other is sick or hurt or whatever, and they'll call each other.
Awesome. I love that.
So that's the only thing that I can think of that would be why I see things like that.
Well, it's definitely something that's, a lot of people that have abilities like that, they do have family that also have abilities as well, So it is something hereditary. And I take that back because now I'm thinking about Rolling Hills. I'm thinking about when I saw it wasn't like a full-fledged apparition like flying. I think it was something residual. It's weird because things I hear tend to be intelligent, but things they see, I think, tend to be residual.
Mm-hmm.
Down the hallway, at the end of the hallway that we were on, it was the tuberculosis room. So there were, if you can imagine, those hospital doors with the two windows.
Mm-hmm.
And our hallway was all dark, at the end of the hallway, because this room was nothing but windows. Because when they had tuberculosis, the idea was to be in an open, cold room. So it was literally they would open up all the windows,
Mhm.
to get fresh air in this room, for patients with tuberculosis. And I remember looking down the hallway, and I saw a figure walk from one side to the other, like through, past the doors. I could see their head in the windows, and I could see feet under the door, the doorway. I count everybody that's with me, because I'm like, all right, I have 10. There's 10 here. Who the fuck is that?
Mhm.
Right?
That's right.
So I went running down there. Boom. Opened the doors. Nobody there. Now this is on the second or third floor. So it's not like somebody could jump out of the room and go running off into the night.
Right.
You would have to go past me to leave this area. And there was nothing. And I saw this, and I was like, wow. Now it wasn't facial features and stuff like that. It was obviously the person,
Mhm.
but one there when I opened the door.
You know what I think is creepy is when they have when they do investigations at the prisons, and they see something peek, a black shadow or figure peek its around the corner of a cell.
Yeah. So Eastern State is interesting. Eastern State Penitentiary. I was there one time on a tour, and I never saw anything, but we got to the tour where the guy was talking about Al Capone's cell. And Al Capone's cell, they have it set up to how he had it when he was there. He was more or less treated like royalty rather than a prisoner. His cell is actually separate from all the other cells on the wing. So his cell is on the other side of the gates. So there's like big, huge gates, then a long hallway of cells. His was on the other side of the gates, more where the the staff was at and everything, and he had a nice bed. He had a writer's desk. He had music in there, pictures, armoire. He was living the plush life. I call it a suite, not a cell. But they had this, and I can never remember the name of it, but those the musics that had the big horns, the big xylophones or something, or what I'm talking about. They had the what?
An oboe or something like that. Is it
from the 40s, 50s? Where it had those big, huge horns on.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, like a tuba or something like that.
Yeah. And I remember I put my phone in to take a picture, and I was recording because I was, we're walking around Eastern State. How do you not record when you're walking around Eastern State, no matter what you're doing, But I put my phone in to take a picture of the cell, and 450 swing music started playing. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. They have like a motion detector thing that makes it go off. That was my first thought.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. I always, my first thoughts are always
debunking.
Yeah. Initially, that's,
and I like that. I like that because that means you're a good investigator. You just can't, you got to take it all with a grain of salt and try to sort it out.
And figure it out. Yeah. So that's what I thought at first. And I felt I was embarrassed because the music was loud and the guy's talking. And I was like, oh shit. Like I pulled my phone back and I'm like, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was going to do that. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, the music. And there was 25 people in this group. Nobody heard it but one person other than me.
Wow.
Nobody else could hear it. And on my record, it was there, but not as loud as what it was.
See, it must be something with that antenna thing you were talking about. There's the X amount of people that are, I think, in tune to what's going on.
Yeah. It's crazy because really, I mean, you hear about all these people that have experiences that aren't into the paranormal, right? That have these experiences, so.
Absolutely.
I mean, one night, I mean, even myself, I mean, one night I was at work, I was there all by myself. I was about to close, and I was closing the shop. I was closing everything up, and it's an older place, so it wasn't any, like, you could hear people walking around, you can hear people walking up to your desk, you hear people walking down steps, you could hear everything, really. And I'm getting my stuff together, and as loud as I'm talking to you guys right now, a woman says, "What is this place?" I was like, "What was that?" I was like, "Hello?" I was like,
Wow.
nobody walked in off the street, like, trying to find, extra, like, the doors didn't open, like, what? I'm like, "Hello?" And nothing. I never got a response. I tried, I was like, "Hello, it's a doctor's office. Can I help you? Do you need help?" I walked around everywhere. Nobody was there, but it was so loud.
That's amazing.
It's always something clear as day too. That's what I'll give y'all a little story of what I've witnessed and what got me into it. Was first my brothers at my childhood home was haunted, and my brothers and his friends were over. Back then parents could go do their thing, and the older brother could watch over. And anyway, they busted out a Ouija board and started kind of playing at it in a disrespectful way. And I even knew this at an age of like 9. I knew what they were doing wasn't right. And all of a sudden, I'm just sitting there on the sofa watching, and I got this feeling of just sick dread, and it just manifested. It got worse and worse. It wasn't a panic attack. I know what those are. It was just something letting me know, like, it wasn't good, whatever it was, and I felt it. And I'm now looking back on it, I'm like, why did I feel that? And they didn't. And they were the ones playing with it. And after that, we had all kinds of weird things, like doors slamming, and I never saw anything physical like a spirit, but I could feel things, sense them, and I like the foot of the bed, someone sitting, stuff like that. And one night, I'll never forget this. I had sleep paralysis too after this. A couple of times, that was scary. And then one night that scared me the most, to where I actually just got up and stayed outside the rest of the night. I was laying in bed, and the sheet started to slowly pull off of me, and I was awake. And saw this happen, and I'm like y'all said, like, what the hell is this really happening? That's what goes through your mind. And then at first I started thinking, oh, it's my cat pulling on the blanket. Well, I freaked out, got up and ran in the living room. My cat's sitting there in the living room, and I'm like, I'm the only one in the house. What the heck is going on? And I'm getting chill bumps talking about it now. And that's what made me realize, hey, there's something, there's good and evil out there, and it's for real. And those Ouija boards aren't to be played with, because it happened to me. And if anyone's listening, I don't want that to happen to y'all. Use it in a respectful way, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say, I am having somebody on in a couple weeks who, I don't want to say specializes, but has been researching the Ouija board for a really long time. So that's going to be a good show, because he worked with Bob Murch, and Bob Murch is probably one of the biggest Ouija board, I'll say expert, even though we hate that word, but I'll say he's like the biggest Ouija board person I know. And Brandon worked with him. And so I'm going to have him on. And I remember I used to be so against the Ouija board, and I used to be like, oh my God, I'm not playing with that thing. I never want one in my house, blah, blah, blah. I saw Bob Murch's lecture at a phenomenology in Gettysburg one year, and totally changed my mind about the Ouija board. You respectfully have to use it. It's no different than any other divination tool that we use, whether it be a recorder. It's almost, your recorder is a digital Ouija board. You're holding it, You're asking a question.
And that's what, to this day, I just couldn't believe. As a child, I knew. Right. I knew that I had to go play, I had to look at that as a respect thing. And looking back on it now, that just kind of blows me away. That, I'm glad that whatever showed me that, because it made me really realize the stuff is real.
And evil, you can't have good without evil. You wouldn't know happy without sad, so obviously these things exist, right? But doing this, you have to take the proper precautions to protect yourselves and those that you are investigating with. But 98% of the stuff you come across is not evil, despite what the TV shows show you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I could have just been picking up on a spirit energy, and it just scared me, and that's why I thought it was something.
No,
negative.
I'm not saying. I believe that there's the difference between demonic, negative, and asshole. I think human spirits.
Yeah. What I felt was totally negative. Like if you went to 20 of your friends' funerals, that type of misery.
Yeah.
Just that all of a sudden, and I was like, "What?" Almost just sick to your stomach too. Really.
I believe in all of it. I believe in all of that exists. It's the same thing with people that believe in UFOs, and then if you find somebody that says, no, I don't believe in, extraterrestrials or other beings, like we've been very ignorant and selfish to believe that the possibilities of this universe are not endless. Will we ever have the answers? Probably not. We probably won't.
You're spot on a lot. I'm glad you said that, because there's a lot of people out there set in their ways, and they'll say, "Oh, I've done this X amount of years," and they believe a certain way, and it kind of slaps the people in the face that have seen it otherwise, that this person is claiming, and it's just I don't like that. I've always had an open mind with everything, whether it's cryptid, UFOs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Like I know you guys are more geared towards cryptid, and I've never had an experience with a cryptid. Again, my research is more focused on ghosts and paranormal. They're all it's all paranormal, but more on spirit, ghosts, whatever. I've also thrown this around. Like, what if what you and I see, like if you're a big Bigfoot researcher, and you're an investigator, and you're out there and that's what you do, but maybe that's your ghost, and that my ghost is your Bigfoot.
Well, Taryn, I've often thought of that. I'm like, well, what if what I'm seeing is I'm almost like, well, what if it's something that wants to show them to me in that way, because I'm obsessed with cryptids and Bigfoot and Dogman, and then they show themselves up like that, and I'm like, I've thought of that before. I'm like, I wonder if they're showing up themselves like that way to be for me to see them.
Right. Yeah, like maybe I would see a spirit as a spirit, because Bigfoot would scare the fuck out of me if I saw that. You know what I mean? Or or a dog man, or whatever. There's so many cryptids out there. I'm learning, but I don't know them all, but who knows? We don't know. I feel like I feel like it's all about your perception and how you perceive things, and how you take things in, and how you accept things as well.
Yes, it makes me think a good buddy of ours, Scott Pace, came on the show and talked about his Sasquatch experiences and Dogman and all of it. And also it tied in paranormal. They were going in his home and couldn't see them and doing things like, he said he could feel his beard being brushed by something, and the breathing and all kinds of weird paranormal stuff that you would think is just ghosts. But he knew in his heart of heart it's these Bigfoot or Dogmen that are doing this, kind of like juveniles playing with him or something.
I mean, I think about as humans, we have to label everything. We need a label for everything. So who's to say that his Bigfoot isn't a ghost, or his ghost isn't a Bigfoot? Because we say, okay, this is what Bigfoot looks like. He's this big, hairy, 12-foot, best hide and seek person ever. You know what I mean? But who's to say that's not really a form of a spirit? Or, what I saw at I was gonna say Waverly Hills for some reason, never been there, but what I saw at Rolling Hills wasn't a Bigfoot, but it's just, I'm looking at it and seeing it as a spirit. You know what I mean? Because that's easier for me to accept than seeing a Bigfoot in this building, so to
Right.
speak, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Have you ever thought, Taryn, that maybe we might be the ghosts sometimes?
Yes,
Because
we're
my
definitely.
reason I say that is when my grandmother passed away, me and my mom was talking one day, and I started telling her about this dream that I had. Well, I get a few sentences into the dream, and she finishes the dream. She's having the same exact dream.
That's cool.
Whoa.
And so
Wow.
then we start talking to my cousin, and she starts telling us the same exact dream.
No
And
way. That
it's
is
like
crazy.
in the dream, we were going back into the house because we had all grown up there and had good times there. We would all go and we were all experiencing the same thing in the dream. We were going back into the house, and we were looking around in the house, and the new owners would come, and we would all leave, and we would go out the back of the house. Like we would all sneak out of the house.
Wow.
And we thought maybe we were going there actually out of body and
Might
traveling
have remote view. I
into
mean,
the
most
house.
of the stuff,
Yeah, that's not
in
a
the grieving,
coincidence.
through the grieving process. Like that was part of a grieving process. But we just all
Wow.
found it strange that all of us were having this same dream, and we could describe it exactly the same way.
yeah. I mean, most of the things that you do describe sounds like some type of remote viewing or remote something along those lines.
Have you had any out of body experiences, Taryn?
No, I want to. I say it all the time. I'm like, I want to be able to go to Brad Pitt's house.
I tell you what, when you have one, when you have it and you come out of your body, it is the most it is the best feeling you've ever had, and it's like you do not want to come back. And I've had a few, and the way that I describe the way that it feels when you come out of it, it's like your body is vibrating at a high frequency. And the way I describe it is, if you take a tuning fork, a tuning fork's a solid object, but you hit that tuning fork and it starts vibrating at a high frequency, and it starts to make a secondary image of itself off of the side of it. And then as the frequency slows down, it comes back to looking like it's solid, we'll say. But that's the feeling you have when you come out of the out of body, or at least that's been my experience with it.
I've never had that, but I did have a visit dream once, and that was my father. So and that is something that I've never experienced before or after that. I mean, it was insane. I don't care what anyone tells me. I mean, Kenny Biddle is one of my best friends. He could skeptic me all he wants. I don't even care. We were together.
That was a message. That was a message.
Yeah, we were together. I could feel the fabric of his uniform. I could feel I could feel everything. I could feel the hug. I could feel it. The interesting is he never said anything. I was the one. I was like crying. I'm like, I can't believe you're here. You get to meet my boyfriend. I'm like, oh my God. I was like hugging him and crying. And then as I was coming out of this, it felt like 1,000 bricks were on my chest. And I was pulling myself. It was almost as if I was pulling myself out of the dream, and I remember waking up and I was gasping for air, and I was crying and my stomach hurt, and ran to the bathroom, and I was like splashing water in my face. I've never done that ever, and it was like this big dramatic scene afterwards. But I remember as I was coming out of it, I saw his silhouette in my bedroom doorway. And at the time, I didn't realize that that's what that was. You know what I mean? Like I remember pulling out, and I remember seeing something, but I couldn't. And then when you look back, I was like, oh my God, that was a silhouette. But as I was so upset with myself that I woke up and we didn't get to talk, it felt so quick, but there's not 1 ounce of me that does not think that we were not together for that short amount of time. There's not 1 ounce.
Wow. I believe it. I believe what you're saying. I've had a visit dream before.
Yeah.
And my aunt passed away of cancer.
I've had them, and my mother's had them.
Yep.
Yeah, they're amazing.
They are. My aunt passed away and had cancer, and her arm had swelled up, and from the lymphedema in her arm. And
Sorry
I didn't. I appreciate it. She loved to fish all the time. Like they called her the crappie queen. She'd catch fish when nobody else could catch them. And so when I have this dream, I'm sitting in a boat with her, and she's sitting on the other end, and she looks at me, and I look at her, and I, like you're thinking, am I really seeing this type thing, And I'm looking at her, and she reaches her hand out, and she made like a fist with her hand, opened it and closed her hand, and was showing me that her arm was healed. And
Aww.
as we're sitting there, she never said a word. As we're sitting there, this other boat is coming behind us.
Hey, baby.
And as the boat comes up behind us, there's these people sitting in the boat, and they're looking behind me off to my right. And I'm just looking at them, looking at my aunt back and forth. And I hear the woman in the boat behind us say, as she's looking behind me, she said, "That is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen."
Aww.
And then I came out of the dream. But
Wow.
and then my friend Bud that passed away, I was really close to him. I also had a dream about him, and he was up in this tree walking on a limb that was as big around as the tree. He's walking on this limb, and when I'm dreaming this, I'm thinking to myself, well, there's Bud. He's up there in that tree, and I'm looking up there, and I'm thinking, and I just kind of like was like looking around at other things, thinking, well, this is just a dream. And then I hear him yell at me and say, "Hey, Adam," he said. Well, they're just giving my real name away. He says, "Hey," he said, can you see me? Can you see me up there or down there?" And I looked up at him and I said, "Yeah, I see you." And he just smiled, but he was younger. He was younger and just looked like he was full of life.
Oh, wow.
And
That's awesome.
I'll never
Yeah, my
forget
dad
that.
was exactly like what I would have like. I remember he was wearing his police uniform. He had black sunglasses on his head. A
Fantastic.
fresh haircut. And I just, it's like he had walked in from work. And it was amazing. Now, on the flip side of that, I have had a dream one time that was real crazy. I, paranormal investigating the whole time when I was with a group, not with a group, whatever. I always said that I want nothing to do with any of the negative stuff. I said Casper only. That's it. Right?
Good.
Don't want nothing to do with any of that stuff. I know people that I trust people that I know that if I ever were to come up with a case that I thought could potentially go that way, I refer out. I don't handle that stuff. Am I capable? I think I am, but don't want to. And I remember one night going to sleep, and I remember I was at this house, and it was a family, and there were 2 young children and a woman. And I said, just stay behind me. I said, I got this. I'm going to fight this demon. And I remember fighting this thing. And I think my brain blocked out what it looked like because it was quite terrifying. It was humongous. And we fought. I fought this thing. And I don't want to say it was like a fist fight. I can't explain what the fight was.
Was it more on a psychic level? Like you could move your hand and move objects type of thing, just like move it in the air?
I was definitely fighting with all of my entire body was fighting this thing.
Wow.
And at the end of it, it was almost like everything just kind of like swirled and just right. And I said, okay. I said, you guys are safe. I have to go. It went to the next house. I got to go fight it.
Oh, wow.
And I woke up. And when I woke up, I felt really weird. And I got out of bed. And not to be like too graphic, but every muscle and bone ached in my body. Like I had just worked out for about 6 hours and didn't stop. I mean, even walking, up here, like where my chest, like as if you were to do like push-ups or whatever. I mean, even walking was hurting.
Wow.
Everything was hurting. Like I had legit really fought something.
You'd really been fighting.
And that lasted a couple of days, as if I worked out. Like it was the crazy. I said that was entirely too close for me, and
Wow.
I took a step back for a minute because I said that was too close. That is like, it was almost felt like if something was like challenging me, like, come on,
Here it is.
yeah, like
Almost like, okay, if you wanna see what's going on here, I'll show you.
yeah. I said no, thank you.
I had this one.
You guys are talking about the dreams. No, sorry to cut you off, Lee.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead.
It made me think of one. I'm assuming there's dreams, visitation dreams, and premonition type dreams when someone's about to pass away, because that happened to me, and I was dating a woman at the time, and I got this very vivid dream one night of us holding hands, like walking through this wheat field, and it was black and white. And she let go of my hand, almost like to say goodbye. And I just remember the wind blowing. It was a really pretty dream. And woke up that morning to a text message, and it said she was killed in a car wreck. And I was just like, "Whoa, what the heck?" Yeah, that was just like, that couldn't have been a coincidence. No way.
No, that was a premonition dream.
Mm-hmm.
Or what I would call a premonition dream. I've had those, thankfully not about people dying, but it's been natural disasters.
Oh, wow.
Did you have any about 9/11?
No. I had one about that big tsunami.
In Japan?
Yeah, that really big one. But they don't come, like, it's not like the actual scene to where I could like call someone and be like, yo, I had a dream that, I was in a glass house and in the middle of the ocean. And I said, there's a huge wave coming. And if we don't take cover, we're all going to be killed. Like we have to take cover right now. And I remember it was like, there was like 12 people in this house with me, this glass house. And I remember seeing this wave coming, and it was hundreds of feet up in the air. Like that's what it looked like in my dream,
Wow.
And I was like, we are all going to die. We're all going to die. And a week later, that tsunami thing happened. And I was so thankful that I told my aunt about it. I didn't tell anybody else about it. I said, I had this, because I woke up even, it was very emotional.
Yeah, you almost wake up out of them still feeling your heart pumping, and you still feel the sadness, and oh yeah.
So I told her about it. I said I had a dream that about this huge wave, and and I was just telling her the dream, and we just poo-pooed it up. And I was just like, it was just so crazy and vivid and this and that. And then a week later it happened, and she called me. She said, did you see the news this morning? I said, what? She's like, there was a tsunami in Japan. I said, what? She's like, yeah. She said there were so many people killed. I was like, oh my goodness. And then there was, and I don't know if you guys would have heard about it, but there was a landslide somewhere. But a couple days before this landslide, I was at my work with my boss. And now, mind you, these dreams is like very vivid, full of color, very vivid, very real, like normal, like except for like odd details.
They're so vivid, like you're there.
Yeah. And he was taking golf, like the pins that you put in the ground to put your golf ball on.
Mm-hmm. Golf tees.
Sorry. He was walking around and putting them in the ground. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, just watch. He's like, this is what's going to happen. Just watch. I'm like, what's going to happen? I'm like, you're putting golf. What are we playing? Like, I'm like, what are you doing? And he put them in the ground, and he stepped back, and everywhere where he put these golf tees, the land just like slid into a hole. So like, it was like,
wow.
It became this big, and then 3 days later, huge mudslide killed all these people. So that's how it happens. Like there's only been once where it was like, and I didn't take it as a premonition dream. I just took it as I ate something the night before that I shouldn't have. And you know what I mean? But the town I live in now, New Jersey, we're lucky. I hate living here, but not as far as natural disasters goes, knock on wood, we normally don't have them. It's very rare for, tsunamis or tornadoes or earthquakes and stuff like that. We just have people you have to watch out for that are insane. But I had a dream and I wasn't living here at the time, but the town I grew up in is called Mount Ephraim. I had a dream. I fell asleep and I had a dream. I was looking out my stepmother's back window and there was a tornado. And I said, how is there a tornado touching down in Mount Ephraim? A week later, there's a tornado that touched down in Mount Ephraim.
Oh, wow.
That's
a gift. You have a gift.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a gift. Because I wish it was like, okay, Taryn, call these people in Idaho, tell them that they're going to have this happen, blah, blah, blah. It's not like that, right? It's just like.
That's right.
You get these what do you, I guess, it's not blatant. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but
it's close to what's going to happen, but it's not a direct.
It's a good piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
You talked about the tsunami in Japan, and that's the one that destroyed Fukushima. And before that happened, and I couldn't tell you, like you said, it was 3 weeks or whatever the time frame was. But before that happened, I had a dream that I was in an old Japanese house with the paper doors.
Mm-hmm.
And the wave came and hit this house, and it started to lift up, and the water just flooded in where I was at. And then when that scene was over in the dream, I was up in the air looking at what I thought was a coastline, but down under the water, you could see foundations of homes that had been swept away.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then 9/11, when 9/11 happened,
mm-hmm.
Before 9/11 happened, I had a dream about a plane. It didn't have any wings on it, but it was going through the city in New York. And it was like a bus, like somebody was driving it through the city.
Like a Winnebago.
Yeah, whoa, like that. But it was like the fuselage of the plane.
Wow.
And then the next scene I see is these people actually up in the air in the plane, and they're grabbing the seats like they're bracing for impact.
Oh, wow.
And the day that 9/11 happened, I was driving down the road, and I was coming home from classes, and I stopped at a 4-way stop, and I looked up in the air, and I said to myself, something has just happened. Something has just happened. And I just kept saying that to myself, and I just kept looking up in the air in the sky. And I pulled in the driveway, and my mom come running out of her house, and she said, come in here. She said, there's terrorists attacking the World Trade Centers.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that's weird. How did I know that something like that was going on? Yeah, I mean, I felt that in my soul.
Oh yeah. Even I went to it's the most beautiful thing tribute, but sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
But I went to the 9/11 memorial and I walked through, and it took about 4 hours. It was probably the most emotional 4 hours I've ever had, like walking through there. Not to bring up anything, because I have to say something about it, because it is, you go through and they really hit you, right? I mean, they bring it to the surface. They bring all your emotions to the surface with it. It's done beautifully, and they honor the people that died and the people that served that, to save people and died, and which I love, and then they're also, you go through one part where they're playing all the phone calls that people got, right? So it starts to bring back all that anger, like getting pissed off about what happened and what they did to us and how they killed all those, when you watch the shows, even, it's so hard to watch, but it rehashes all those feelings you had, and I turned a corner. Now, mind you, I just walked through the exhibit where where you're hearing all the phone calls. Now they warn you before going through. They say this is a very graphic, because they're also showing people jumping from buildings, and they're showing videos of that stuff as well. So you're hearing these phone calls of people saying, I love you, and tell this, that, and you're seeing the video. So you're already pissed off. And then you go around the corner, and there's a section of the photos of the terrorists. And then there's stuff that they've gotten from the wreckage, like their laptop, their IDs, their clothes. They have all this stuff, and I got so pissed. I was like, they don't deserve anything here. This is what they wanted. They wanted to be on. They wanted to take blame. They wanted to take responsibility for this, because people like that thought that what they're thinking is they're going to go to their heaven. You know what I mean? And this is, what they're doing for their, whatever. This is what they do it for this recognition. And I was like, no way. They could be taken down.
Yes.
And then I sat and I thought about it, and I said, I'm no better than the people. And I'm not trying to go political here, but with the people taking down all the monuments and thinking, this is, gonna, that's a piece of history that needs to be told in order to know where we were at and how we got where we are. Mm-hmm. You take those terrorists out of the picture, nobody's ever going to know what happened, why 9/11 happened, why were we the way we were after that, why did we do this and why we did that, who was responsible, what is this, how did this happen? We would know 100 years from now, people aren't going to know if that's not there.
Yes.
And I feel like if you remove that piece of history, or remove any history, it takes out that learning where we came from. It's just what made us who we are. It's a part of our history.
If you don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
History wise.
Yeah. And who knows? I mean, look at all the changes that were made for flying and this and that because of all that happened. And it's like, and then you think about all the people that died. I mean, you don't want them to die for nothing. It was like, this is what happened. This was who responsible. You can't take that part away, or else you may repeat it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's exactly right.
So
I don't like that they're trying to remove the history, removing statues. Just because they're taking that statue down doesn't mean the books aren't still out there.
Yeah, I know. And that's true. But unfortunately, we have people that, think that they have this altered idea of history and want to teach that, and remove,
mm-hmm.
And it makes me really sad that we can't, as a country, see it for what it is and see how far we've come from all of that and move on.
Yeah, I think people
it's a good learning tool for history for people, and it's a the victims. It's just something. It's a reminder for the victims too, whether it be the good stuff or the bad stuff, like you saw in that museum. And the part that always got me was that photo or the video of the couple jumping from the top and they're holding hands, and I'm just like, to be going to work and happy, and it was a beautiful day, and then all of a sudden you got to just jump from a building. I mean, it's just,
I know.
Everyone that day, yes, it will know exactly where they were, and man, it's just, how could something so beautiful come out of something so sick and twisted that day? From that photo. I don't mean to say it was beautiful. It was, what I mean?
No, but in those last moments, you know what I mean? Like, I can't even imagine. I can't imagine having to make that decision.
I can't either. Did you notice it? Did you notice it looked like they had no fear at all? It was just like,
I can't imagine. You would have
here
to
we
push
go.
me.
Here, yeah, it wasn't even no hesitation.
You would have had. I couldn't imagine. I don't have enough courage inside of me to do something like that. So to me, I understand what you're saying about beautiful moment. Like it's definitely, it's definitely something that I will never we won't ever. I mean, I said this the other day. I said, how many like it's going down in histories am I going to live through? You only hear about, like, my mom only talks about Kennedy being assassinated. That was the thing where everybody was like, oh my God, I knew exactly where I was at. It was the most, tragic
Right.
thing. Look at all the shit that's happened in the last, God, 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
So much, and it's just, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely
getting worse. It's getting worse. We gotta prepare.
Yes. We were going to tell you, Taryn, me and David, we've been going out in the woods and taking pictures in different areas, and we're catching stuff that looks spirit-like in these pictures. Now, we know what pareidolia is, and everybody talks about pareidolia, yes. But I caught a photograph of what looks like an old man peeking around a tree. Well, you can see his head and face and his eyes, and he's even got a beard peeking around a tree. And David had caught what looks like a soldier, like a Vietnam era soldier standing in the woods. It is neat. He's even got something on his helmet. It's like some kind of a emblem or something on the helmet.
His face is kind of green and had the green helmet, and you could kind of see like how they used to put stuff on their helmets. Mm-hmm. And then you can even see, like, I have to find that and show that to you guys, because that one. Yeah, what's amazing is another set of eyes is always good, because I was focused on like this dogman creature looking in the picture, and I'm sorry, Lee.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry, Lee was like, hold up, do you see that man right by the tree branch? And I was like, holy shit, you are so right. I did not see that. So it's always good to have another pair of eyes, because they will catch something in there. Yeah, exactly. They'll catch something in your photos that someone else won't see.
And we kind of think that maybe the environment captures things, or it's like you said, like one person's Bigfoot is another person's ghost type of thing. Yeah. That maybe we're catching that kind of energy. Yeah. I've caught pictures of it looks like things peeking around trees, like half the body. You can see like the arms and the legs, and then behind that is another one standing back there. We've seen stuff like that. And then David he's got a really good picture where he caught eye shine out his back patio one night, and I filtered that picture and lightened it up so to bring out more detail. And you can tell her what it looked like, David.
Well, that night I had a feeling to go outside and take pictures, because I had a feeling like something was out there. I will capture something, and that's what I did. I didn't see no eye shine. I didn't see nothing. I just took photos like I usually do, and then came back. I was still on the patio, and then I looked down at my phone at the picture I just took, and there's what looks like two, probably 7 foot, 8 foot tall creatures with glowing eyes looking right at me, and it was raining that night. In the tree, I have a small creek and a small wood line on each side, and it was like it was in those woods. So, and the way it is, where the creek is, it dips down. So for something to be down there and still that tall with the eye shine, it could have been taller. I don't know. And, right. And like you said earlier, when you saw a picture, you had evidence that made you like, hold up, I'm backing off a little bit. That's what I did. I was like, okay, I think I've got the message. I've been kind of getting photos of you guys. Now you're letting me know where I live, and like, that's the feeling I got, like, hey, we're here. And, but I always go out there with the respect mindset. And I know it sounds crazy, and they probably all think I'm loony around here going out there taking pictures and talking to things in the woods, but Hey, I've gone
Hey,
with it.
you're not committing any crimes, and you're not doing anything illegal.
Yeah,
So,
I just say pretty much, don't mind me, guys. I'll be here for a few minutes, and I'll be out your hair. And
Hey, David.
there was only one time that I had the feeling of not to go down there, and that was weird. My dog wouldn't even go down there. My dog didn't even set foot on the grass, and then all of a sudden, I got the feeling like this isn't the time,
oh,
and that's
David, don't bring your dog. What if something happens?
I know you're not the only one that you're not the only one that has said that.
When I watch movies and it's like what was the one? The newer one with Ryan Reynolds, the Amityville with Ryan Reynolds, and the dogs are they. Why does everybody let the dogs out? Like no, I would be like protecting them more than anything. I'm like, no, come in here. Signs, remember Signs? I love that movie.
Swing away, Merle.
Yeah, great movie, awesome movie. But the dogs, I'm like, no, why? It's just like. I hate it. I'm always like, no. David's like, I bring my dog with me, go Bigfoot hunting. No, David, don't do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I had him on a leash, but still,
Yeah.
I trust his instincts before mine. I was like, oh, okay, you don't want to go, then I don't want to go down there, and I got the feeling like today, like almost like something told me today's not the day, just go back home. So I did.
No,
I'm not gonna challenge anything that I don't know about.
Hey, David, share the story about the EVP you caught that time. I like that, man.
Yes, that is another one that made me like hold up and sit down. I don't want any part of the paranormal part because this was after the Ouija board and all the stuff I went through with the childhood home. I got a little bit older, like 12, 13, 14. So my brother turned 18, and he's always kind of been dabbled in the paranormal because of all those shows that came out, on cable. They were real popular. Everybody was ghost hunting. So he went and bought one of those little Radio Shack recorders that recorded really well, apparently, I thought. And we decided to go to a spot where a family was murdered back in the day. And we're like, let's go see if we can get some EVPs, So I go with him. He taught me into it. And we go, and it's during the day, and we pull over and park. And I mean, everything we asked, we got a response. It was so crazy. I mean, it was so vivid, and you know how you said an EVP is kind of distorted a little bit?
Yeah.
These Taryn weren't. We captured the voice of a small child that said, it sounded like a little girl that said, "Can you help me?" But the way it said on the EVP, I so wish we still had this. It was like she was struggling for each word. It was like, "Can you help me?" And that just made the hair stand up on my arms, and I cannot believe we just captured this.
Oh wait, didn't you talk about that, right?
Do what?
Didn't we talk about that?
Yes. Yeah, I probably did tell you about that because I knew you were in the paranormal, and I wanted to share that with you. But that always stuck with me. I mean, the very first time I tried the EVP, it seemed like I would get something, and I was just like, whoa, okay, something's really wanting help, or I felt like I was dabbling in something that I wasn't ready for, and I just
and see, I don't want. That's the thing. I didn't want you to feel that way. I said because a lot of times we don't. It takes a lot of. The theory is it takes a lot of energy for spirit to be able to manifest to do anything. So her sounding like she might be out of breath. She might just have been trying to get out a sentence, and maybe you didn't hear the whole sentence. Can you help me to the bathroom, or can you help me find my daughter, or can you help? You know what I mean? We might just be hearing a part of what it is. Hey,
I got pizza delivered.
Oh, awesome!
Right?
Yep, thank you. Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Dinner.
All right. Well, we're keeping you late, and I know you're sleepy and got dinner. So
well, sleepy. I'm never. I yawn a lot all the time. But
we can't thank you enough.
Absolutely.
I've always talked to Lee about having you on, and I just I wish we had done it sooner, but it's okay.
I'll come on again. I love talking.
Awesome.
anything. I'll come on. I'll come on again for
Yes,
sure.
and thank you for the names and all the people to reach out to. We're gonna make that happen.
Yeah, and just let them know I sent. Just say, we had Taryn on. I know Taryn, and she recommended you as a guest. If you go on, because I know you guys are really big into like UFOs and stuff. If you go on Justin Bamforth's page, it's normalparanormal.org or com. He'll kill me because I can't remember that, but so I had him on one time because he had he did a case about Men in Black, and there was a guy named Gary Sudbrink that had received 4 phone calls in a 2-night period, and he has those on record, and he has them on the website.
Oh man, I want to go listen to that right after this.
I would much when I was listening to them, I felt like I was I was listening to something that I shouldn't be. And
nice.
I don't know why it gave me this feeling, but it did. And but I couldn't stop listening. It was the oddest. Now you have to remember this was like late 80s. So early 90s. So it was when you had the tape for your voice, the messages that people left. You'd have to rewind your tape to listen to the, so it was like a long time ago. The verbiage, the words it used, the way it talked, it's just, it's the eeriest thing I've ever heard. I'd much rather listen to the real exorcism tapes of Emily Rose than like that had more of an impact on me than that did.
Wow. I talked to some people in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where the Mothman thing was supposed to have happened. And this lady that was there at the time when all that was going down. And she said, creepier than the Mothman story, she said, were the Men in Black that showed up. And she said the Men in Black crawled all over that bridge a week before it went down. The Silver Mine Bridge or whatever I may not be saying it right. The Silver something bridge, but they crawled all over that bridge. And I've often thought that maybe the Men in Black sabotaged that bridge as a distraction to get something out that maybe had went down.
Yeah. I mean, it's a anything is possible in this world.
Absolutely.
Anything. I mean, think about how big our universe is and beyond. Anything is possible. But that's what it reminded me of in the Mothman movie. When Richard Gere was getting those phone calls
from Injured Cold.
Yeah, well, this thing was like, it's mimic. You got to listen to. I'm getting chills thinking about it. You guys got to listen to them. There's 4 of them, and if you can't understand it, he has the transcripts with it.
Oh man, I am all in on that. I'm going to listen to that.
Please,
that's so cool.
And then have Justin on. He's amazing.
You say Justin Banforth?
Yeah, it's B as in boy, A, M as in Michael, F as in Frank, ORTH.
Cool. Awesome. Paranormal.org.
You have to email. He doesn't have a Facebook. He doesn't have any, so you just email him. If you go to Normal, if you go to his webpage, you can contact him through there. But you could tell him that I sent you guys and you want to have him on. He's awesome.
Do you have pictures in a book, Taryn? And would you like to tell people about that book, or do you?
Yeah, you're talking about the tour guide, the Peach Orchard in Gettysburg.
Yeah, is it in a book? Your picture is actually in a book, or just on the wall?
So the picture of the soldier is hanging up in Ghosts of Gettysburg.
Okay,
but I have pictures that I took with my full spectrum camera. There's nothing ghost about it, but just pictures of the Peach Orchard in Gettysburg. And then somebody that wrote a tour guide book for the Peach Orchard in Gettysburg asked if they could use my photos. I said, fuck yeah.
Hey, the full spectrum?
I saw that on Facebook, and I was like, I didn't know what that was all about. So I was like, we have to mention that.
Yeah, cool.
Do the full spectrum cameras, do they pick up, when the pictures show up, are they like a purpley color? Is that like an ultraviolet? Is it the same thing as ultraviolet spectrum, like it sees in the ultraviolet?
I'm not. Full spectrum. I feel like this. All of the filters have been reviewed, so you're actually taking pictures on all spectrums of light. So I'm not sure about the ultraviolet thing that you're talking about, because it's not just. It depends on the area where you're taking. Sometimes it can come up a little bit more darker than lighter, and sometimes you know what I mean. So I'm not sure about that.
There's a the reason why I was asking the guy that does the autopsies at our hospital, one of the lab technicians was telling me that they had done they work with him and do the autopsies, and she said he had a special camera that he had work done on this camera, and I think it sees in the ultraviolet spectrum or something. It may be one of those full spectrum cameras like you're talking about,
Right.
but they take them to crime scenes and different things like that. And she said it was the most amazing thing you ever seen. If they just found the remains that looked like just like bones and took a picture with that camera, they could see tattoos on that body.
Wow.
And she said, like, you wouldn't be able to see the tattoos.
This camera I had can do that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So
a good movie to watch too is the Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Oh, that's cool.
I've heard of that, but I've heard of that, but I haven't seen it.
You got to see it. I feel like it's maybe a Netflix movie, but it was really good.
Awesome.
Autopsy of Jane Doe. Taryn, I guess we'll get off here so you can go get your supper so that it doesn't stay cold or get cold on you. Sorry.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Taryn. It means a lot.
Yeah, and I'll come back anytime. I love talking this stuff. We can talk about it for hours.
Man.
That's true.
I love the mystery in it. I love the mystery in it.
We'll have to come on your show next.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Oh man, thank you very much. It's been an honor.
And be sure Paranormal Brew next week. I have Barry Fitzgerald from Ghost Hunters International coming on. So
awesome.
Hey, Taryn, do you mind if I post in my groups whenever you have a show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Awesome.
I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
All right, guys. Well, that's another show, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you very much, Taryn.
Thank you for having me, guys. You guys are awesome.
You too. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Adios. Remember, everybody, stay aware, stay prepared, and faith over fear. And good evening, everybody.
Yes, sir.